Hello and welcome, this is Silverox, and on today's episode we are going to be making the League of Legends jhin rifle from his High Noon skin. Like always, if you like this and you want to get it for yourself, then go to my Patreon at patreon.com/silveroxcraft. In the game League of Legends, jhin has a specific skin called the High Noon skin. In that skin is trademark weapons get changed into this western style revolver/rifle combination. In the game itself, he uses this in two different ways, one being the individual separate modules like this, which he uses both a revolver style and this I believe would be a cane in the game. I'm not sure about that, but while making this into a papercraft models, I had to make some sacrifices to it. I tried to make it as friendly to use as possible, but of course there are going to be some difference to this from the in-game model. The first one being, in the in-game model, the weapon does not have these two plugs in its exterior. These were made so that it would be easy to attach the front model to the revolver without it just being easy surface contact like that. The other thing is, of course, since this is a papercraft model, it is a low polygon, so it's easier to put together, as you can see right here. Even as a low polygon, there are a lot of tabs you need to glue together. The other thing is, I did make it so that it would be reasonably functional. As you can see, there is a pivot point for the cylinder for the revolver, but of course I have to state this like I did the last time I make a video like this. If you are going to print and assemble this, choose one form over the other. So if you want to get the revolver and the cane separately, I suggest you do this and you keep them separately, not putting them together in a part all the time, since it is paper, it will degrade. So the other thing is, for the top sides, I had them completely aligned. As you can see, they are perfectly aligned, so that will be a continuous sight all the way through the cane and the revolver. Another thing is this back part right here, which is the half cylinder that attaches to the revolver, has a specific problem, which is it is composed of three different pieces. As you can see, I'm gonna split these apart. It's composed of three different pieces. Now, the reason I did this, if you look at this is a bit of a complicated piece to put together. Even me unfolding it, I had to come back into Wonder and redesign this because it just wasn't ending up right. I couldn't tell apart specific sections of this piece to others, so it was hard to put it together. The same thing I did for this I don't know what to call it, but I'll call it half moon. Because of this design on the back right here, I decided it would be best just to have this as two separate pieces, just like the top part. As far as the rest goes, this is composed of a few big parts and a few small ones. Of course, the main is the structure for the revolver, which is just the U-piece with a few holes through it. This was actually the easiest part to make. There is the top support, which is what holds the pretend armor. As you can see, it's one piece, but this backside is supposed to be the hammer right here. There is the grip and the stock, which are composed of, let me just pull this down, of the main structure here, which is what attaches itself to the U-frame, there are the side covers, as you can see. The reason these pieces are side covers to the main one, it's something I like to do. I like to make these builds into as many parts as possible. I prefer making 2 extra side covers than making the one piece too complicated, because as you can see here, this is just 2 flats with a connecting piece to the middle. You can see there is no complicated part in assembling this, as well as there is no complicated part in assembling this. This is once again, this is 2 flat surfaces attached by the border. Now if this was together like that, you can see that about here that would be a secondary flat that would elevate from the first one. I like to avoid it as much as possible, so what I end up doing is making these lateral side pieces that give extra detail without giving you that much work. Of course, remember that you do have to assemble these pieces, and once they are all assembled, the main structure right here will be strengthened by the lateral pieces. The shoulder stock is just one solid piece. I did not add any detail to this. Then it comes this sidebar. In the game I actually don't know what this piece is supposed to accomplish. I'm not that familiar with jhin, but this is just composed of 2 pieces. The grip, which is where you grab them, and the arm attaching it to the sides of the circle there. Now as you can see, I'm just gonna pull this, which is the axle which the cylinder rotates on to the side, and if I go out of edit mode and you look at this, you see all of the pieces presented here are incredibly simple. There are no pieces that have that much detail. The exceptions are these 2, since they have to be rounded pieces, and I have to take into account that they have to be printed out in paper form. They are the both most complicated and the ugliest ones because of all the sides you can see. If this was the 3D printed model, I would avoid this by putting on a surface subdivision modifier, which will smooth out everything, but since it isn't, I have to keep it in this format. So I'm gonna pull this back and out of the way so I can talk about the rest of the pieces. The other one I made was the sides. Now the reason the side is a separate piece entirely is because I actually duplicated this. I went out and deleted everything except for the outer circumference right here. The reason I did this is because I needed to align this circumference with the circumference of the sides. That was actually quite easy. Then all I had to do is extrude these pieces down to make the support structure that is going to attach to the top rail. Let me just put everything back together with Ctrl Z. And there we go. Everything now is back together. As you can see, the back sides just slot on top of the rail that's the pretended armor. Now putting this aside and moving to the front part. Oh sorry, now we have to talk about the cylinder first. Now the cylinder was achieved by, if you know what Blender is, one of the modifiers you can use in Blender is something called the array modifier. You can see right here that what the array modifier does is it duplicates the structure to our building, in this case to the side. Now this wouldn't be useful to making the cylinder, because all it will do is pick up what I have here and put it right next to me. So to fix this, what I used was something called a empty. I use empty plane axis. Oops, let me put the cursor on the selected. Oh, the the select and not the center, and use a plane axis. Now what this does is it just adds this, which normally doesn't have that much use for making pepograph models, but it does have one. So okay, I'm gonna apply the set here rotation and scale, because if I don't do that, the shape here is gonna end up distorted. So selecting here, you can see there are 6 chambers, so I just add 6 to the count right here. You can see it duplicated 6 times, and I remove the relative offset and add a empty. Now you can't see any difference here, so I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna end up deleting everything except for that. And I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna rotate it. As you can see, while rotating it, it does look like it's completely broken apart, because I already applied all the modifications I needed to this, so it wouldn't work properly anymore. So this is just for demonstration. Right here, I actually don't remember what was the angle I needed for this. I think it was 60 degrees. Rotate this by 60. Yeah, it was 60 degrees. And I ended up with something similar to this. Now, like I said before, this isn't what I did the first time, because the structure inside was much simpler than it is now. So I'm gonna undo everything I had, remove that, and remove that. Now that was just to talk about the cylinder, because as it is a very simple shape. There's nothing that complicated. The most complicated part is going to be attaching the chambers to the front and back surfaces and these dents on the side. Other than that, that's straightforward. So now we can put this aside and talk about the front gun or the cane, or I don't really know what to call this part. It's just pretty much a second revolver. Now this, let me just, it's fine as it is. This is composed of several parts. Like always, I don't actually make that many complicated pieces. I rather make simple pieces and attaching them all together to give the appearance of complex. So the first one is going to be this. This is the surface that attaches to the front plate of the revolver. This is simply composed of a straight piece with one hole completely through it, as you can see. You can see all the way through it. And then there is this extra one right here. Now the reason I have that one, as you can see, there are 2 plugs right here. These 2 plugs, one goes in the top chamber and the other goes in the bottom one. These are the same plugs that they are going to attach to the U-frame. As you can see, there is the hole here, which is used for the fire mechanism, which is not present in this gun, but it would be. And there's a bottom one. Now this bottom one, if bring everything back, you can clearly see that it is where you slot the rotating pin into. If you slot it all the way back though, it does leave a small surface on the front, which the bottom pin on the front gun is going to fit into. Now the next part is the grip. Now the grip is the most complex when it comes to its shape, on the front part at least. But all it is a flat surface that extrudes downwards into the grip which you hold. There's nothing much to talk about this piece, so I'll move on. The next is pretty much the barrel. Now the barrel is just a long tube with a long tube on the inside. It's just, there's nothing to specify about this. It's just what it looks like, as well as the scope on the top. The only difference between these two is that this one on the inside, I extruded it, both the outside and the inside, to enlarge it on the back, to give the appearance of the side of the conventional scope. Now these two pieces won't normally be able to hold themselves together, so to make sure that they function as one piece solidly, I have these two. Now these two are, as you can look at them and immediately determine what they are. The front one is just a brace which you slot both the barrel and the scope through, and it has this extra bit right here to add this. Now in the in-game models I couldn't determine if this was two separate pieces. It was one separate piece, sorry, not the in-game model. If I wanted to make this into two separate pieces, this tiny one at the front and this large one on the back, instead I decided to go against it and make this into one piece that can be slotted through the front brace. Now in my opinion, the reason this would be a bad alternative is one, this piece is going to glue on the top of the barrel, and then they will all be glued into this, giving it a much more sturdy surface to hold it all together. Then after this you have this back one. The back is simply just a cube which I angle all the sides to fit the surfaces of the barrel and the scope. This one is, once again, there's nothing special about it, it's just a modified cube for this purpose. And the final piece is, in my opinion, one of the biggest downsides to this, to the way that I have to build this, because let me just bring everything back. There we go. As you can see, okay, as you can see right here, the barrel has to attach to the frame right here, which attaches to the U-frame of the revolver. The problem is there is barely any contact surfaces here, and originally I wanted to make this so you could slot the main barrel inside of this shell, but as you can see here, if I did that, there would be literally no spacing on top, so gluing a very tiny surface like that would be, if not impossible, a headache to do. And at this point I didn't want to redo this entire thing, because the surface, if I bring everything out, oh my god, I have to go to, I didn't want to do this because never mind, I just do it all manually. If I bring this in here, sorry about that, I didn't expect that to be that many steps to undo. But like this, you can see it's not properly aligned, but it's more than enough for me to demonstrate what I wanted to say. I actually created this piece by duplicating the U-frame and just selecting this front surface and adjusting it into the shape that I needed. And because of that, if I actually wanted to realign either the barrel or the frame itself, I had to redesign quite a lot of it, because this entire thing right here was already completed. So if I wanted to pull the frame up or reshape it, I would have to alter this back, the back frame. I would have to alter the back of the view frame. I would have to alter this piece. I would have to alter a lot of pieces. And then I thought, well, if I bring the barrel down, maybe that will help. But then I remember that no, it doesn't, because I have the cylinder here, and well, it was just a headache. So the compromise I decided to take was, yes, I'm going to have this piece with a very small surface contact, but I'm going to sacrifice your ability to see all the way to the back here, where the chamber for the secondary gun would be, or the cane, I don't know what to call it in the game. And I sacrifice it by adding this pin. Now this pin, it's glued on the inside, as you can see. if I highlight it, you can see it goes all the way to the back and it touches the back plug right here, right here. And what this allows me, it gives me a much larger surface contact. That of course allows me to slot the barrel into that plug, making it somewhat sturdier, but still not that sturdy of a support. Because if you can look at like here, this entire thing, it's still weighing on the front of that plug. So the plug is literally holding up this entire thing. Now I thought about having a support piece that goes here. Oops. Like I said, a support piece that goes here, and then it will brace this entire thing. But the problem with that is it's not on any of the concept art and the in-game art that I see. So I had to pick, do I either do this on a acceptable, sturdy way with everything supported, or I do it in an accurate way where there is not that much support. So I took a gamble and said, I know what, I'm gonna leave it in this condition and hopefully it won't be that bad. So that was pretty much the design process for this. Ultimately, I'm very satisfied with what it looks like. Of course, I did make sure that the pieces don't collide here, so you can add both the front and the back together without it looking like the pieces are going to be hitting each other. So after this, all I had to do is export it into Pepakura and unfold it. Now I decided to make this into 1 meter and I believe 30 centimeters long. I'm not sure what the size of the actual rifle will be in scale to per person, but from the in-game model it's roughly big, but not gigantic like some of the weapons that the League of Legends characters have. So I made an acceptable size of 1.8 meters long. Now if you want to know the full dimensions, I have them right here. So from the very bottom of the grip to the very top of the sides, you are getting a 32 centimeters height. Now the width of this is pretty much just going to be from the side right here of the grip to the sides of the cylinder, so it's not from cylinder to cylinder. That's 14 centimeters, and of course it is 1 meter 30 long. So that was a pretty good description of everything I did on this gun. There's nothing much to talk about it anymore. The unfolding process, of course, is the most tedious because you just have to completely cut everything apart and then applying it all to the pages. Of course, you can see there are a total of 34 pages right here. All I did is I press Ctrl P to print it, and you can see the number of pages that are available to print. So with that said, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Later on, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, I will be posting a complete time lapse of me building it, so if you're interested, go watch that and have a nice day.